I can see other people's infidelity rates. After a long and careful search, I married the one woman with an infidelity rate of 0, Clara Hayes. But overnight, her rate skyrocketed from 0 to 96%. And then, the number changed from percentage to a cold, hard integer. 4 times in one night. 01. The skyrocketing rate. My name is Ethan Cole, and I have a special ability. Floating above everyone's head, I can see a set of numbers, their infidelity rate, and their infidelity count. It's an ability that feels more like a curse, forcing me to see the ugliest side of human nature. My own parents' marriage was destroyed by betrayal, so I swore to myself that my wife would be a perfect woman, one with an infidelity rate of 0. After a meticulous search, I finally found Clara. She was beautiful, kind, and the numbers above her head were practically non-existent. I thought I had found an angel on earth, my salvation. But a week ago, everything changed. The number representing Clara's infidelity rate, once a negligible 0.8%, shot up to 43% overnight, without any warning. I stood in the foyer, watching her come home from shopping trip. She smiled sweetly and said, "Honey, you're home." But all I could see was that bright red number, 43%. The number was a branding iron, searing into my heart with a blistering heat. An icy chill shot up from the soles of my feet, straight up my spine, and into my skull. The warm light of the living room suddenly felt blinding, and the air was thick with a suffocating silence, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. "What's wrong, Ethan? You look terrible," Clara said, putting down her shopping bags. She walked toward me, concern etched on her face, reaching out to feel my forehead. I flinched away instinctively. Her hand froze in midair. The concern on her face hardened, replaced by a flash of panic. That was the look. I suddenly remembered all the recent nights she'd spent hiding on the balcony, furtively texting and making hush phone calls. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd always stammer something about her best friend. The way she feigned calm to hide her panic. The memory was now crystal clear, unbearably vivid. I once thought Clara was my redemption. When I met her, her family was struggling, buried under nearly $50,000 of debt. I paid it all off without a second thought. Then I spent another $100,000 renovating their dilapidated family home in upstate New York, turning it into something beautiful. I treated her like a princess, and to feel worthy of her, I poured everything into my career. By 25, I was the director of finance at a major Wall Street firm. Luxury cars, a penthouse apartment. I had it all, and I built it all to give her a stable, happy home. But now, everything I'd done, my pride and my ability to judge character, felt like a colossal joke. The castle I built for her was just a stage for her to orchestrate a meticulously planned betrayal. For the next few days, I was a walking ghost, and the infidelity rate above Clara's head was like a stock steadily climbing, shattering my reality with each new high. 43%, 63%, 83%. Until today, Friday, I came home from work, and the number had become 96%. Just 4% more, and she would cross the line completely. I tried to numb myself, to convince myself I was overthinking it. My best friend, for example, spent all day scrolling through TikToks of models, and his infidelity rate hovered around 20%, but he never once acted on it. But Clara was different. The steady daily increase, the sound of her stifled laughter late at night, the way she'd tense up the moment her phone screen lit up. It was all like a dull knife, sawing back and forth across my heart. The perfect wife I thought I had was just a master of time management. The atmosphere on Friday night was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. Breaking from her routine, Clara wasn't in the kitchen cooking. Instead, she paced anxiously around the living room. Her cheeks were flushed with an unnatural heat, her expression a mixture of conflict and excitement, all traces of her usual calm and gentle demeanor gone. When she heard my key in the door, she jumped like a startled rabbit, spinning around. Her face was a portrait of guilt, of someone caught red-handed. I looked up. The 96% above her head glowed with a searing red light, like a fuse about to detonate, ready to burn our marriage to ashes. On the surface, I remained calm. I took off my shoes and asked, just like any other day, "What's for dinner?" Inside, I was a frozen wasteland. I knew she was only one opportunity away from cheating. She was a tinderbox, waiting for a spark. In that instant, a dark thought flashed through my mind. Should I buy poison, or should I buy a knife? I thought I had everything under control, only to find that the strongest fortresses are always breached from within. I took a deep breath, forcing down the murderous rage boiling inside me. No, I wouldn't let her off that easily. I was going to give her a chance. a chance to make her own choice, and it would be the final test for our relationship. I would use a unique method to see if there was any chance of her turning back. A cold, cruel plan began to form in my mind. 02. The first victory dinner was tense. Clara aimlessly pushed the food around her plate, her eyes darting around the room. A few times, she nearly dropped food onto the table. I placed a piece of her favorite braised short ribs into her bowl, feigning a casual, joking tone. Honey, what's up with you tonight? You look like you've seen a ghost. You're a million miles away. I paused, a cryptic smile playing on my lips. Or, have you been doing something behind my back that you shouldn't have? Clang! The porcelain bowl in her hands trembled, nearly slipping from her grasp as soup sloshed over the side. Her body went visibly rigid. Her face turned chalky white, her eyes wide with an unmistakable panic and guilt. And no, what are you talking about, Ethan? I would never, she stammered, her voice shaking. Seeing her like this, my smile widened, but my heart felt like it was being pierced by 1,000 needles, bleeding drop by drop. I didn't press her. I just took a slow sip of soup and switched to a storytelling tone, my voice low but clear enough to carry through the silent living room. Speaking of which, something big happened at work recently. Clara's attention snapped to me immediately. There's this woman in our department, very pretty, always seemed so quiet and honest. Turns out, her husband cornered her at a hotel the other day. I watched her reaction as I spoke. Her breathing grew shallow and rapid. Her husband is a real piece of work. He didn't scream or yell. Just went back to his car and got a tire iron. Man, the scene was brutal. Blood everywhere. He beat her a dozen times, completely ruined her face. She survived, but she'll be disfigured for life. The doctor said she'll never be able to have children. Crash. The bowl finally slipped from Clara's grasp, shattering on the floor into a dozen pieces. All the strength seemed to drain from her body. She slumped in her chair, her face as pale as a sheet of paper, her lips trembling uncontrollably. And in that precise moment, I saw it clearly. The bright red number above her head started to plummet. 96%, 63%, 22%. Finally, it settled at a stable 1%. The searing red light faded with it, turning into a faint, almost invisible wisp. It worked. My psychological warfare was a success. A sick sense of satisfaction washed over me as I watched her fall apart. I don't feel well. I'm going to bed, she mumbled, scrambling away from the table and fleeing to the bedroom. For the next few days, Clara was a model wife. The late-night calls stopped. She was more attentive and caring than ever, as if we had just gotten married again. Watching her tiptoe around me, trying so hard to please me, a ridiculous flicker of hope sparked within me. Maybe it was just a moment of weakness. Maybe my story had scared her straight. But I extinguished that thought as quickly as it came. Once trust is broken, it's like a shattered mirror. No matter how you piece it back together, the cracks are always there. I knew this was just the calm before the storm. A suffocating, temporary peace. Sure enough, the quiet didn't last long. That afternoon, Clara called me, her voice thick with tears. She said her mother, Sharon, had accidentally sprained her ankle. It was swollen up like a balloon, and she had to go to her parents' place to take care of her for a few days. Of course, honey, your mom comes first, I said, while my mind was laughing coldly. I was all too familiar with my mother-in-law's greed. Every time she visited, she'd find some excuse to ask for money. One day, my brother-in-law needed a new phone. The next, the family needed a new appliance. It was like I was her personal ATM. After work, I deliberately bought a basket of expensive health supplements and drove to my in-laws' house. When I opened the door, Sharon was lounging on the sofa, legs crossed, munching on potato chips while watching TV. The moment she saw me, her face soured with disgust. Oh, look who decided to show up. Look at Clara. She's exhausted from taking care of me. I put the supplements down. Before I could even say a word, she launched right in. This ankle sprain is serious. The doctor said I need proper nourishment. Give me $5,000. I need to buy some special treatments. I suppressed the nausea rising in my throat. Without a word, I pulled out my phone and sent her the $5,000. The moment Sharon received the money, her expression of disgust morphed into a sycophantic grin. She put her phone away and practically sprinted to the kitchen to get me a glass of water. With that agile gait, she looked about as much like she'd sprained her ankle as a track star. I sneered internally, playing along for a little while longer before making an excuse about having work to do and leaving. It was late when I got home. I quietly pushed open the bedroom door, and a wave of unfamiliar men's cologne mixed with the scent of shower gel hit me. Clara was fast asleep in bed, a blissful, sweet smile on her face, though her brow was furrowed with a deep, hidden exhaustion. I lifted my head and looked above hers. In that instant, my pupils constricted. The blood in my veins turned to ice. The number above her head was no longer a percentage. It was a cold, massive, glaring integer. This wasn't the infidelity rate. This was the infidelity count. One night, for times, the last line of defense in my heart crumbled into dust. A bone-deep chill and the colossal pain of being played for a fool consumed me. So, going back to her mom's was a lie. Taking care of her was a lie. It was all a charade, a cover story cooked up by her and her greedy mother so she could go out and cheat. I stood by the bed, staring at her sleeping face. The fire of vengeance inside me roared to life, its flames illuminating my bloodshot eyes. Clara, Sharon, you will both pay for this. 03. The truth of the betrayal. The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I even woke up earlier than usual to make Clara breakfast. When she walked out of the bedroom and saw the sandwich and warm milk on the table, a flicker of surprise and guilt crossed her face. Honey, why are you up so early? You looked so tired from taking care of your mom yesterday. I wanted you to sleep in, I said with a smile, pushing the glass of milk toward her. I was the very picture of a perfect husband. She couldn't meet my eyes. She kept her head down, taking small bites of her breakfast. Above her, the number 4 hung like a giant, mocking trophy. And what was even more ironic was that after finishing the breakfast I had made for her with my own hands, the number began to shift again. It went from a fixed 4 back to a percentage, 99%. What did that mean? It meant that last night's indulgence hadn't brought her an ounce of guilt. On the contrary, it had given her a taste for more. She wanted it again. Maybe even tonight. I laughed coldly to myself, but my face remained a mask of gentle affection. Fine, if you're this insatiable, I'll create the opportunity for you. Sure enough, that afternoon, while I was in a meeting at the office, I got a call from my brother-in-law, Kyle. He was loud and obnoxious, demanding in that entitled tone of his that I take him out to the most exclusive rooftop bar in the city that night. He had a new girlfriend he wanted to show off to his friends. Listening to his repulsive voice, I could almost picture his smug, freeloading face. This whole family was working together to betray me from the inside out. They ate my food, wore the clothes I bought, used my things, lived in the house I paid for, and all the while they were crowning me with one green hat after another. Sure, I said into the phone, my voice light and agreeable. Text me the address. I'll be there after work. After hanging up, the smile on my face grew colder. I played right into their hands. I took Kyle and his pack of degenerate friends to the lounge, indulging in a night of extravagant excess until 2 in the morning. During that time, I received a text from Clara. Honey, when are you coming home? I'm scared all alone here, followed by a pouting emoji. I stared at the message, my stomach churning. I didn't reply. I just put my phone on silent. I knew that every minute I delayed was another minute of opportunity for her, and another minute for me to gather the final evidence. At 2:30 in the morning, I stumbled home, pretending to be drunk. The living room was dark, but the bedroom door was slightly ajar, a sliver of warm light from the bedside lamp spilling out. I slipped off my shoes and tiptoed to the doorway. Claire was on the bed, seemingly asleep. The covers were a tangled mess beside her, and she was still wearing that sexy silk nightgown. I looked up. The number above her head had changed from 4 to 7. Just then, my phone vibrated softly. It was a message from the private investigator containing 2 encrypted files. I stepped back into the living room and opened them. Inside were dozens of photos and videos, clearly documenting Clara entering and leaving a hotel room with the same man twice during the hours I was out with Kyle. When I saw the man's face in the photos, I paused for a second. Then, a bloodthirsty smile spread across my lips. Mark Spencer, a mid-level manager in my finance department. So it was you. When the company was looking for a new director of finance, Mark was the other frontrunner. He had more seniority, better connections. Everyone thought the job was his for the taking, but the new guy, had snatched it from him. I always knew he resented me for it, that he was always trying to undermine me. I just never imagined he'd use this method to get his revenge. Impressive. I opened a video file and put in my earbuds. Amidst the filthy sounds of panting and moaning, I could hear their disgusting conversation. Angel, do you really love me? It was Mark's smug, predatory voice. Leo, of course I love you. Clara's voice was syrupy sweet. Wait, Leo, she didn't even know his real name? And you love me more than that pathetic loser of a husband? Of course. Ethan is such a bore. He's nothing compared to you, Leo. I listened, my face a mask of stone, until a crucial piece of dialogue emerged. Angel, if you really love me, you'll do something for me. Mark's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. I need you to get the security token from your husband's briefcase. A security token? What's that? Don't worry about what it is. Just know it can decide his fate. Once I get him kicked out of the director's chair and take his place, you'll be in charge of our finances, baby. Okay, Leo, I'll do whatever you say. You're so good to me. Clara agreed, her voice full of naive devotion. I took out my earbuds, a cold laugh escaping my lips. So, not only was Clara a cheater, she was also stupid enough to become the pawn in her lover's scheme to destroy me. Mark Spencer, you think you've already won? Over the next few days, I made a point of bringing my briefcase, containing the company's security token, home with me every night. I would casually leave it in the most conspicuous spot in the living room. Finally, one weekend night, Clara made her move. Pretending to be asleep, I watched her every move through the pinhole camera I'd installed in the bedroom. Like a thief in the night, she crept out of bed, rummaged through my briefcase, and pulled out the security token. Then, she quickly replaced it with a fake one she had prepared. After she was done, she let out a long breath, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. The next day, she made an excuse to go out and deliver the token to Mark. A day after that, she secretly returned the real token to its place. As soon as I had it back, I logged into the company's backend system. Just as I expected, the accounts were short by a staggering $20 million. The money had been transferred to an anonymous offshore account. Mark's plan was to frame me for embezzlement, to make it look like I had stolen $20 million. He wanted to ruin my reputation and see me rot in prison. Staring at the massive deficit on the screen, I didn't feel a single shred of panic. Instead, I started to laugh. Mark Spencer, Clara Hayes, your time is up. Before Mark Spencer had a chance to make his move at the company, my wonderful mother-in-law and brother-in-law showed up at my door. It was Monday morning. I was about to leave for work when the doorbell started ringing off the hook. I opened the door to find Sharon and Kyle pushing their way inside. Kyle kicked off his shoes the moment he was in, flopping down on my expensive leather sofa and immediately filling the room with the foul stench of his feet. Sharon didn't even bother to take her shoes off, just plopped down cross-legged on the couch and stared at me with an air of entitlement, as if she owned the place. Ethan, your brother and I are here today to talk about Kyle's wedding. I laughed coldly to myself, but kept my face impassive. Oh, Kyle's getting married? Congratulations. Is that all? Just congratulations. Sharon's eyes widened. What about the money? What have you prepared? Money. Don't play dumb with me. Sharon's voice shot up several octaves. When Clara married you, we were considerate of your situation. We didn't ask for a dime. Now you've made it big, a fancy director. Kyle is your only brother-in-law. Are you telling me you're not going to help with his wedding? I looked at her shameless, expectant face and almost laughed out loud. So, what are you suggesting, Sharon? My suggestion is simple. Sharon held up a chubby hand. A condo in the city, a new Mercedes, and $50,000 in cash. That's the bare minimum. Not a penny less. Before I could respond, Kyle jumped up from the sofa. That's right. My girlfriend said if we don't have that, she's not marrying me. Bro, this is my future happiness we're talking about. You can't be cheap. I looked at the greedy mother-son duo before me, as if they were a pair of circus clowns. Clara stood to the side, tugging pathetically at my sleeve, playing the role of the helpless victim. Honey, please, just tell my brother. He has no other choice. I slowly shook my head and let two words escape my lips. No money. For a second, the air in the room froze. Sharon's face turned the color of a beet. She grabbed a teacup from the table and smashed it on the floor, pointing a trembling finger at my nose as she shrieked. Ethan, you ungrateful bastard. You worthless piece of trash. If it weren't for our Clara, would you be where you are today? Now that you're successful, you think you could just turn your back on us? Kyle rushed over and grabbed my collar, roaring in my face. Say you don't have money one more time. I dare you. You want me to kill you? I stared back at them coldly, feeling nothing but a deep-seated contempt for these vultures. Just as they were about to completely lose it, I changed my tune, forcing a look of helpless frustration onto my face. Fine, I'll do it. The expressions on their faces instantly shifted from rage to ecstasy. But I sighed heavily. The company's having some financial trouble. There's a big hole in the books, and I had to pour all my personal savings in to cover it. Right now, I don't have a single dollar to my name. Seeing the suspicion in their eyes, I continued, I just need about a week for things to clear up. As soon as the money comes through, I'll take care of everything for you. Then I dangled the fatal bait. How about this? You two can go look at condos and cars first. As for the down payment, you might have to cover that for now. Once my money is freed up, I'll not only pay off the rest of the loans, but I'll also give you a generous bonus as a wedding gift for Kyle. Sharon and Kyle exchanged a look. The greed in their eyes quickly overpowered their reason. You promise? A gentleman's word is his bond, I said with a sincere smile. Over the next few days, I personally took them to look at real estate and car dealerships. I had already prepped the sales staff, who bombarded them with talk of limited-time offers and it'll be gone if you don't buy now, pushing all their buttons. The foolish pair took the bait. Desperate to scrape together the down payment, which amounted to several $100,000, they did the unthinkable. They took out a high-interest predatory loan online with a monthly interest rate of 10%. They even mortgaged their family home. As I watched them gleefully sign the contract for the condo and the car with their borrowed money, I sneered. They had no idea this was just the beginning of their nightmare. On Friday, as soon as I got to the office, Mark Spencer strutted into my office, looking arrogant and triumphant. He leaned against my desk, a smug smirk plastered on his face. "Ethan, how's that director's chair treating you?" he sneered. "Don't get too comfortable. It won't be yours for much longer. Soon it's going to be mine." He leaned in closer, his voice a venomous whisper only I could hear. "Oh, and by the way, I really have to thank your wife for this. To be honest, when I had her screaming my name in bed, it was a special kind of thrill, something you don't get with other women." Ha ha ha. He wanted to see me break, to see anger, to see me lose control. But he was disappointed. I didn't even look up from my work. I just said flatly, "You're an insect? Not worth my time." His smile froze on his face. Just then, my office line rang. It was the CEO's assistant. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Davies wants all senior management in the main conference room for an emergency meeting." Immediately, Mark straightened up, adjusted his tie, and gave me a victorious smirk. "Get ready, Ethan. Time to go repent in a prison cell." I watched him leave, then slowly stood up. He was right. Someone was about to repent. But it wasn't going to be me. 05. The reversal of the tension in the conference room was thick enough to choke on. The CEO, Mr. Davies, a fiery man in his late 50s, was practically vibrating with rage. He slammed a thick stack of files onto the conference table in front of me, sending papers scattering across the floor. "Ethan," he roared, spittle flying from his mouth as he jabbed a finger at my face. "Explain this to me. Why is there a $20 million hole in the company's accounts?" A collective gasp went through the room. Every eye, filled with shock, suspicion, and contempt, was fixed on me. I was the target of their collective scorn. Mark Spencer sat across from me, a smug, cold smile on his lips, his eyes gleaming with the pleasure of watching a rival's downfall. Faced with the onslaught of accusations, I remained unnaturally calm. I knew this was Mark's killing blow, but it was also my perfect opportunity to strike back. I slowly stood up, calmly gathered the scattered papers, and looked at the furious CEO. "Sir, please calm down. Could you just give me a few minutes? I'm waiting for a few people to arrive. I think they can explain this better than I can." "Waiting for people?" Mr. Davies laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Fine. I'd love to see who you think can possibly save you today. If you can't talk your way out of this, you can pack your desk and get ready to rot in a federal prison." A dead silence fell over the room. Everyone was waiting for the spectacle to unfold. Mark crossed his legs, leisurely sipping his coffee, already picturing me being led away in handcuffs. The minutes ticked by. About 15 minutes later, the conference room doors burst open. It wasn't some high-powered savior who walked in. It was 4 grim-faced police officers in full uniform. Everyone froze. The smile on Mark's face instantly vanished. The lead officer scanned the room, his gaze sharp as a hawk's, before walking directly toward Mark Spencer. As everyone watched in stunned disbelief, 2 officers flanked Mark, hauled him out of his chair, and restrained him. "Mark Spencer, you are under arrest for the embezzlement of company funds and for malicious incrimination of an innocent party." Boom. The sudden plot twist sent the entire room into an uproar. Mark was so terrified he lost control of his bladder, and the acrid smell of urine filled the air. He had pissed himself right there. "No, it wasn't me. It was him. Ethan stole the money," he shrieked, struggling incoherently and pointing a trembling finger at me. Mr. Davies and the other executives were speechless, their mouths agape as they watched the cinematic scene unfold before them. It was only then that I calmly pulled out my phone and pressed play. A crystal-clear audio recording filled the room. "Angel, if you really love me, you'll get the security token from your husband's briefcase. Once I get him kicked out of the director's chair, I'll transfer the $20 million to an offshore account, frame him for embezzlement, and his life will be over." The recording laid it all out. How Mark had manipulated Clara into stealing the security token, how he had planned the embezzlement, and how he intended to frame me. Every detail was there. As the recording played, Mark's face went from pale to ashen to gray. His body went limp, and he sagged against the officers holding him up, unable to even stand. I walked over to him and looked down, a cold smirk playing on my lips. Did you really think your plan was foolproof, Mark? The truth is, from the moment you first contacted my wife, your every move has been under my control. I leaned in, my voice a low, contemptuous whisper only he could hear. In my eyes, you're just a clown. You were never worthy of being my rival. As the police dragged Mark out of the room like a sack of garbage, he was still muttering in disbelief, "Impossible. Impossible." The conference room was silent. Everyone was now staring at me, as if I were some kind of monster. I turned off the recording, straightened my suit, and walked over to the still stunned Mr. Davies. I leaned in close to his ear and spoke in that same soft, gentle tone, but this time it was laced with a threat. "Mr. Davies, I'm sure you wouldn't want your wife, with her family's connections, to find out about the 3 mistresses you're keeping on the side, would you? Or about the company's stock you've been giving them?" Mr. Davies flinched as if he'd been electrocuted. He looked at me as if he were seeing a ghost, a sheen of cold sweat instantly breaking out on his forehead. How could he possibly know that? I gave him a meaningful smile, said nothing more, and walked out of the conference room. The crisis wasn't just averted. I now held the entire company's fate in my hands. My position was secure, and this was only the beginning. 06. A glorious beginning with Mark Spencer dealt with. I didn't waste a moment. That same afternoon, I had my lawyer deliver a set of divorce papers and a court summons to Clara. When Clara saw the cold, black and white legal documents, her face went deathly pale. Her mother, Sharon, after a brief moment of shock, erupted in a volcanic rage. Her large frame shot up from the sofa like a cannonball. She stormed over to me, jabbing a finger in my face. "Ethan, you soulless monster. What has Clara ever done to you to deserve this? You want to divorce her? I'm telling you, not a chance." As she screamed, she raised her heavy hand to slap me. I no longer had any reason to hold back. My eyes turned to ice. I kicked her hard in her fleshy stomach. Sharon let out a pathetic shriek and rolled across the floor like a deflated beach ball. Kyle, who had charged forward to attack me, was met with a backhand slap that sent him spinning in a circle, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "To be honest, I've been sick of this entire family for a long time," I said, shaking my hand. My voice was as cold as a glacier. "If it weren't for Clara's halfway decent face back in the day, do you really think I would have ever given any of you the time of day?" My sudden aggression stunned them into silence. Sharon struggled to her feet, clutching her stomach, her voice now a shrill whine. You can't just divorce her. You have no proof. I'll sue you for domestic abuse." "Proof?" I laughed coldly and pulled a stack of damning photos from my briefcase, scattering them over her and Clara like confetti. "Is this enough for you?" When Clara saw the images of herself tangled in bed with Mark, her vision went black. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the floor, her face a mask of utter despair. Sharon's eyes nearly bulged out of her head. She instinctively snatched one of the photos and tried to stuff it in her mouth to destroy the evidence. I watched her with derision. "Finished eating? Don't worry, I have a whole stack more right here. Want some?" I patted my briefcase. Sharon froze, the blood draining from her face. Kyle, clinging to one last shred of hope, yelled, "So what, divorce her? We'll take you for everything you've got. The penthouse, the car, your company's shares. My sister gets half of everything. Let's see how arrogant you are then." Sharon latched onto this like a drowning woman to a life raft. "Yes, we'll get half. And you still have to pay off the loans for Kyle's condo and car." "Pay off your loans?" I laughed so hard I nearly doubled over. "Why on earth would I do that? The loan agreements, the down payment receipts, they all have your names on them. What does any of that have to do with me?" I stopped laughing, my eyes turning to steel. "As for splitting the assets, I forgot to mention, 99% of my assets are premarital property, all legally protected by a prenup. The only thing you're entitled to is half of that remaining 1%. I paused, savoring the looks of dawning horror on their faces, before adding slowly, "All told, that comes out to about $100,000. I don't think that's even enough to cover the interest on your predatory loans. Is it? Ha ha." My laughter was a sledgehammer, shattering the last of their defenses. Clara stared at me in disbelief. Sharon, trembling with rage, felt her blood pressure spike. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted on the spot. In court, the evidence was irrefutable. The divorce was granted. As I had predicted, Clara walked away with a paltry sum, not nearly enough to solve her problems. The massive debts they had incurred were deemed their sole responsibility. The once arrogant family completely fell apart in the courtroom. They wept and begged me for forgiveness. Clara clung to my leg, her face a mess of tears and snot. I looked down at the meaningless, rapidly dropping number above her head and felt nothing. I coldly shook her off and walked away from their desperate cries without a second glance. Without me, as their cash cow, the Hayes family's life spiraled into ruin. Debt collectors showed up daily, splashing paint on their door and gluing their locks shut. Everything of value was repossessed. Eventually, the bank foreclosed on their precious new condo. Under the immense weight of stress and debt, Sharon suffered a massive stroke. She didn't make it. I heard that even on her deathbed, she was still cursing Clara, calling her a harbinger of doom. Kyle lost his job, his girlfriend left him, and he spent his days on the run, getting beaten by loan sharks. As for Clara, the last I heard of her was several months later. Someone saw her huddled under a highway overpass, gaunt and dressed in rags. Her former beauty was gone, her hair matted and her face caked with grime. Shivering in the cold wind, she must have remembered something, perhaps how I once treated her, because she suddenly broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, like an abandoned dog left to die. And me? I had no time to spare for the fates of failures. Using the leverage I had, I successfully and graciously forced Mr. Davies into early retirement. The multi-billion-dollar financial firm was now mine. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, a glass of red wine in hand, looking down at the glittering expanse of the city lights. My glorious life was just beginning.